okay, which is 10 years ago.
Yeah.
The ones I was looking at was 5 years ago. But let us take 10 years ago. And the voter turnout 10 years ago in 2011 was 56%. Okay? And then the rejected voters was 2.27%. So if you use this percentage against the same numbers which the Electoral Commission has given, what you get now is that the figure adjusted for both of these becomes 4,798,000. So 4 point rounded off 4.8. 50% of that is 2.3. So even in the, I think it's unlikely, but even in the unlikely event that there is just a 56% turnout, which is much lower than the 76, you still need to get a winning candidate to get 2.3%. Again, if you compare that with the last elections, as I said, the UPN got 2.8, the PF got 1.8. So for the challenger, which is where we are in the opposition, we still would have an enormous challenge for us to get to the 2.4, even in the lower case. Now, as I said, all the other probability, what will most likely end up in the next election is between these two figures.
Right.
Okay. Believe me, as I said, you can come and ask me about this, and I'll say, okay, I was wrong. But these are the two figures. So it makes the need for an opposition alliance extremely critical. In order for the opposition alliance and their candidate to get a figure that is above 2.3 in the lower case and above 3 million in the higher case. So this is not an academic exercise. We need to get that, given the fact that all the others fell far below before that number. So is it possible? Yes, it's possible. But let me just conclude these numbers with just one consideration, which is very important. The difference between the voters register in 2021, which was 7.023, as opposed to this current one, which is 8.7, is 1.744 million votes, meaning that you have got 1.7 million new voters. Okay, now those new voters were not on the register before, and therefore you cannot predict their behavior. Okay, as a percentage of the winning party in the last election, as the runners-up in the last second, it's a huge percentage, meaning that a lot of parameters on just the numbers have changed. You know, so anyone who is going there to stand for an election with the hope of getting 50+1 has to be aware of the numbers dynamics, because as I said, it's science. You win by science, you don't win by magical preparation. So on our part as opposition, we have to make sure that the number one candidate has the oomph, has the chimwela, has the gravitas to be able to reach this figure.
Absolutely.
Does
the 5 million voters in the UPND is talking about tickle you? What do you read into that?
Yeah, I think that it's a joke. They are highly, highly unlikely to reach anywhere near 5 million. Okay, because as I've said in other areas, if you look at the history of this country, in terms of, because this one will be the 10th elections since 1991 in presidential, right? It will be the 10th. There's only been 3 occasions in which the governing party has managed to get 50+1 significantly. The first one was actually in 1990, where Chilwa got 74%. Okay, and you remember it was a revolution because of longevity of the one-party state. So and there was one candidate. Okay, as the opposition. All of the other elections in between, nobody ever got 50+1. In between, up to 2016, nobody. So President Mwanawasa, in his first term, if you recall, he won with 27% of the vote. Okay. In the second term, he got 42%. President Banda, when he won with under 50%. President Michael Sata, when he won with under 50%. Lungu, when he won the first time, or in the by-election, he got under 50%. Only in 2016 did he win 50 plus 3%. HH, when he won in the last election, got 57%. Now, you have to remember that when he won with 57%, there were a lot of people who were voting not for him, but against the PF, for whatever reasons people had. You also had to remember that he had no record in 2021. So he could exaggerate about his greatness all he want. And majority of young people, the new voters at that time, could believe him and said, this guy is going to perform wonders. 5 years down the line, I would say 90% of the things that he undertook to do, he has lamentably failed. And here there is no dispute. I mean, the core issues which matter to people, for example, the cost of living, lamentably failed. That he would enhance democratic practice in this country. Here we are talking about them actually agitating for defectors, lamentably failed. The issue that they would ensure that there is national cohesion, building of national unity, that we would all feel that we are one Zambia, one nation, because they said the PF was ethnically inclined. 5 years down the line, never has there been in the history of Zambia where we feel so divided on an ethnic basis. So you can look at just 3 parameters, and a lot of young people have been able to see that. And so they have a record in which people will judge them by. And these 1.7 new voters have no loyalty to the UPND at all, except those who may see this as a tribal issues, particularly in the provinces where they performed well last time and they made sure they had a lot of numbers. So it is unlikely, it is highly unlikely that he would get almost 70% of the voter turnout, because when you're talking about 5 million, if even in the high case, if you're talking about 5 million, when people have turned out to 70.61, you're talking about 6 million voter turnout. What he's suggesting, you get 80% of the vote, which nobody has ever done in this country, and he is unlikely to get it. So it's just a pipe dream.
You raise a number of of issues there. Let me start with the one which is really sad, and that's regional, ethnic. There's no doubt, southern provinces are going to back, HH. Whether he performs well,
Yeah, that's right. That's
or
right.
Not. In the same, vein, we're looking at a possible northern eastern, ticket. Sadly, what does this mean, in terms of the voting pattern?
Yeah, well, again, it's one of the strongest arguments to ensure that you have a rallying point of one candidate by the general public, that we should not diffuse our votes. And at that level, it's not necessarily an ethnic argument. I will get to the ethnic issue in the second round. At that point, from an electoral point of view, it is looking at who won last time. And what happened in 2021 is that clearly the UPND won clearly in 3 provinces. That is Southern, Northwestern, and Western. And the main contender in those elections, which was the governing party, the PF, won in another 4. They won in Northern, Eastern, Mchinga, and so on and so on. Now, there are these 2 provinces in the middle, Lusaka and Copperbelt, which tend to swing quite easily, and they usually swing not because of ethnic factors. They swing because of economic factors and because of proximity to government, and usually they tend to go against government because they feel the pain. The urban population feel them easier. So even if we suspend those, what happens is for those political parties which you call opposition dominance, in the areas that we talked of, you cannot afford a split. What you need is a unanimity of votes in that group, because you expect that there will be a unanimity of votes in where the government won, the UPND, and I don't think they will lose that. So the argument is even more potent that you need unanimity in the other. And then in Lusaka and Copperbelt, because it swings according to performance, they are likely to swing against the government. They are likely to swing against the government. But even that swing must be managed in such a way that the votes that are going to not go to government are concentrated on a singular candidate and not diffused between 4 or 5 candidates. So again, it's very, very important that we identify this from the perspective, of course, of Tonse and Woza, is that the candidate is Brian Mutubila, and that we should all try to concentrate that firepower on him for obvious reasons. But we can go into that earlier. So that's the first part of the argument. The second part of the argument is the ethnic argument. Look, the North, Central, and East don't tend to vote very strongly on ethnicity. Okay, but Southern Province, the empirical evidence suggests that there is a lot of ethnic consideration. In the past, it wasn't so bad. Because if you recall, both you and I were MMD at one point, the MMD would perform very well in the southern province as well. So the people themselves want to be part of the Greater Zambia. But the current government has weaponized ethnicity. They have weaponized it. And not only have they weaponized it from the perspective of trying to get the people to feel that they have been excluded in the past, but to the extent of trying to frighten us as political players from discussing this, because then we might be charged with either sedition or trying to incite ethnic consideration. And you can't frighten all of us to the extent that we are afraid to discuss this matter. So in this matter, I'm quoting statistical data. The president himself went to southern provinces, I said earlier, and said that if you don't vote for me, they will be beating you. I mean, that is incitement. The president himself has been at State House claiming that the only reason that some of us have been against him regarding to do with issues to do with the constitution has been because we hate him. And that we hate him because of a specific who am I and where do I come from. So there has been an implicit accusation that the only reason we are opposing him is because of his ethnic issue, which I think is very unfortunate. So what you do is that the president has consistently weaponized ethnicities in order to convince the people of a particular geographical area in the country to feel threatened by others who are not in that particular area. That is extremely dangerous, but it works. It's a strategy that works. In the US, for example, Trump used it very effectively. Okay, and for him, it was also tribe because race is tribe. The fact that you are Latino is tribe. The fact that you a redneck, they call it derogatory, is tribe. And he played on the fears of those who felt that they were uncomfortable with the brownization of America in order to try and punish the Democrats. It worked in that particular area. I think because of a number of issues. One of them was because for the first time in the history of the United States, you remember that he was basically taking out after a person of African origin. So he frightened them. Okay. Fortunately, things like that don't last for long. And already there is a reversal. But here you have a political party that is actually trying to do this. Okay? And that is what his objective is. So he says to people, if you don't give me this 100%, then you are going to be in trouble. So I think that we need to discuss this matter honestly. I have said in other forums that tribalism is very bad. Ethnicity is very bad. I was a protege of Kenneth Kaunda, who taught me one Zambia, one nation in a very practical sense. And I feel the pain when the head of state becomes the problem and not the solution.
Tell me, I've spoken to a number of my colleagues, from southern province, and by the way, one of my kids, the mother is from southern province, so and I get very upset, when people talk about this tribal thing. Having said that, some of my colleagues are saying they are entrenched, they want to win at all costs, because they fear retribution if they are to live in a government. Does that cross your mind?
Well, it has been said to me, like it has been said to you, from friends, from certain regions of the country. It has been said to me by family. As you're saying, you have a child. I have a wife who is from that area. My wife, originally the parents from Southern Province, the mother Lenje Soli. So my household is a very mixed household. Okay, it's a very mixed household. Not only that, I've got siblings who have been married into all areas of Zambian life. So when we gather together at my house, there are people from all walks of life. And some of them are honest enough to say, even when you join a political party that is not seen to be one that is supported in a certain region, family members even call you and say you are a traitor. Now, when you start using words like that to people within your circle, again, as I said, you weaponize them. And so you are weaponizing the political process, which is very sad. And you are old enough to, because you're older than me, you're old enough to remember, maybe you might even have covered it. Part of the argument for the one-party state in 1971, in fact, 71 until it was the commission in 1970, is what happened at the UNIP Congress in 1967.
Absolutely.
It was that. There was a Mozi Kumawa issue that rose out of those ethnic tensions. The following year, in 1968, you had that debacle when Keke resigned. So this was a derivative of some of the things that we are saying today. Now, will there be retribution? I don't think so.
No.
I think that there is no one that I know from Northeast who says that we must fix them if we win. I don't think so. I think that it is being used again to justify the weaponization by the party in government of the ethnic issue.
Numbers are, again, two issues in terms of, numbers. One, there are other, factions, that are still on the sideline. No matter how small, you have to bring numbers on board. There's a faction of Calabar. There's a faction of Frayed. What would you be telling them, and what do you think is going through their minds
at the moment?
That's number one. Number two, you talked about the youth vote, which was very prominent in 2021 for HH. It's still there. UPND can say that. That the academia, chaps in the academia, are raising money for HH, nomination. They say they're happy with the policies that he has implemented in the education sector. These two issues, what is your response?
Well, let me start with this one which you've just brought, and I'll get back to the other faction. In this environment where we're in Zambia, it is very easy to take a minuscule part of the population that is doing something and multiplies as if it is representative of a large group. Okay, so this idea of some cadres who belong to the UPND and are at the university saying they will raise money for HH, and then having certain public corporation broadcast it as if it's the whole entire student body is a fallacy. It is not correct. I know thousands of students that we have been dealing with who are not part of this system. So it's a small group which has been given a lot of airtime, both on television as well as in the public media, which gives it the so-called apparent broadness. It is a lie. Basically, it's a lie. Okay? There will always be students that will support the government. Usually those who are doing it for some form of financial gain. Okay? Just like we saw some pictures of videos where people who looked like they were dressed in national service colors were dishing out money at the university during that debacle they had over the sanitation. So you can create this. You can create the impression, which is not the case. It is because of those type of self-delusion that political parties in government become shocked when they lose. Because they now create their own echo chamber and they believe it. So that I wanted to answer. I think that a great many students who feel the pain will be able to assess the government accurately and will be able to cast their vote for purposes of self-interest for them and not through propaganda. And as I've said, we've had 3 governments in this country tumble.
Yeah.
And it will happen again.
Yeah.
And it will happen again. Of course, this time it will only happen if we have got a critical mass that builds for one candidate. I think that is very important. Now, let me tackle the issue of the other factions. And I want to be very careful here because sometimes in Zambia, when we are too honest, people regard our honesty as if you are insulting someone.
Yeah.
You know, it is not an insult. I've always been told myself that if Uncle Frank comes to me and maybe I didn't wash myself properly in the morning before I come here, and Uncle Frank says, "Oh no, you know, I think that I can you know, smell an order on you," and you have smelled an order, and then my reaction should say, "Uncle Frank, why are you insulting me?" That is not an insult. What you are helping me to understand that I have got a problem which you are asking me to try and resolve. You know, so, but in Zambia is taken as an insult. So some of the things Ambassador Chuluman and others who have pointed out the deficiencies within the opposition political parties, we have been said that we are disrespectful and we are insulting. You know. So with that preamble, let me now get to the question. Look, in the beginning, the reason that many of us were pushing for an agenda of unity and giving the figures as we were giving was to try and convince leaders of political parties and their immediate supporters to be able to buy into the ideas that you couldn't win on your own. Okay? And of course, as I said, some people took offense. I think wrongly took offense. At the point we are now, those of us who are still pushing for a come together are no longer addressing those political parties and their supporters. We are now addressing the general public. That we have tried to get the political leaders to come together. Some of them have answered the call, as you saw yesterday. You know, that was answering the call. As you saw a week ago when Waza went and endorsed Brian Mutubila and Tonse as a candidate. So there are some people who have answered the call. But there are some leaders who are finding every justification why they should not answer the call. Okay? And I think for some of them, I believe that we have passed the window. Some of them will not be able to comply. They understand that this is a call from Zambians, so they want to posture and pretend that they want to answer the call, when actually they've already made up their mind. There are still some who we are talking to. There's still some who we think that are in a position where they could see this. But there are others who won't. Now, those who won't see this are basically, I think, in 3 categories. They're basically in 3 categories. And I want to list this, basically. The first category are those who have got significant foreign funding towards their organization. I'm not mentioning any names. I think people can...
They want to please the funder.
They want to please the funder. And beyond pleasing the funder, in my view, which is even, I think, worse, is that they know that if they are not on top of the ticket and they decide to back somebody else, that the funder probably withdraws the funds. So for some of them, it is not about politics per se. It is about survival of their institution, and maybe as individuals who know that to do the right thing and support somebody else, if it's other than them, that the funds will be withdrawn. So there's that category. Okay, now, those people will not bend, no matter what convincing argument. What they will do is try to pretend that they want talk, and then they even blame people like me for using strong words as this is the reason why we don't want to come along. I mean, you can't use me or Ambassador or others who are discussing as a basis. So that is one group. And I think that I've got a good idea who they are. And I think that the general public also has a good idea who they are. The second group are people really who are just delusional. You know, again, the word delusional it is not an insult. It means that you have been unable to assess your capacity and your likelihood to actually win. So, for example, let me give an example of my brother, John Sango. Smart guy, accomplished guy, and he meant well in what he was trying to do. But I think that he is not delusional, because I think as he tried to push his movement, he then came to the realization about how politics really is in Zambia.
Yeah.
And instead of doing the dishonest issue to keep on pushing, he decided to withdraw.
Yeah.
Now, a person like that clearly is not a delusional person. But there are others who have got no capacity to assess that without a structure, without your MPs, without councillors to adopt throughout the country, there is no way you can go beyond the threshold of 1%.
Absolutely.
So they are unable to design. Yeah. That's why I said they are delusional. So that is the second group. Yeah. The last group, although there are others, but I just wanted to look at the main ones. The last group are those who are Trojan horses. Yeah. There are 26 candidates that have filed. Now, Frank, I live in Zambia. I'm a Zambian. I have worked in Zambia. I know that even for me, and I'm not a rich guy by far, okay? But I have some means. I have some means. I mean, some of them out of my own workings, some of them inherited, and so I have some means. I cannot risk 100,000.
It's crazy.
It's crazy for me to do something which I know I can't possibly win. Yeah. Okay? So the only explanation for some of this is people who have been given the money by others to merely create diffusion within the opposition. Yeah. Okay? So those are the three groups. And I think it's unfortunate. That is why I'm saying that at the stage where we have reached now, it's a little bit too late to keep on pushing certain groupings.
Leave them on the sideline.
Leave them on the sideline. Yeah. We talk to the people now.
Let's talk about the people again.
Yeah.
There's 1 million.
Yeah.
Voters, prospective voters of the group, if they're still intact.
Yeah.
That, Sangwa, left.
Yeah.
Are you talking to them? If that 1 million exists, it's a massive, number. Are you talking to them?
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, in these matters, especially with us African politics, okay, it's very difficult to determine the actual numbers before an election.
Absolutely.
Our colleagues in the West, where they've developed this well, there's opinion polls, there are exit polls, there are all those issues, and you can reliably have an idea in terms of patterns. But even there, sometimes the opinion polls will throw you off. And the reason why the opinion polls will throw you off is because an opinion poll is a snapshot of a particular time and place. Okay, so you could do an opinion in maybe Lusaka, Lundazi, and whatever today, and you can do the same opinion for maybe 2 weeks down the line, and you find that the results are different because, as I said, it's a snapshot of time. So, in order for you to get some sort of accuracy, you will have to repeat that opinion poll several times, use several parameters, and then come up with an aggregate of the thing. So, our friends are very good at that. We are not, and then the electorate outside the country also tends to be very honest because there is no retribution in terms of what you say. So if you say you're a Democrat, you say, I'm not going to vote for Trump. You can even say Trump. You know that there is unlikely to be any retribution against you. Okay. But here, if you use a strong word, say, I will not vote for President Chaso. If that president is in government and if he was offended, you could find yourself in jail. Excellent. Yeah. Yeah, so people don't tend to. But let me just answer the question. We are trying to broaden the prospect of talking to as many people as possible. So if indeed there were 1 million that we're supporting, we are casting our net wide. And that is why we're saying, all of us, let's come together under Tonse, and then we'll be able to cast the weight as much so that we can capture even those that we're supporting.
Excellent. Yeah. I want us to move, systematically, and, I'll give you a picture of how I want us, to move. Once we thrash out this unity, there's just one question remaining. I would like us to move into the environment. Yeah, and the environment I'm talking about is the limitation, the laws that have been, passed, hastily. Let's thrash out the unity again. Obviously, and you can't blame them, UPND will be throwing tantrum spanners in the works, to call this unity bluff.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, no doubt about it. They may even go further and flash, carrots to people who are still, in there. There'll be a lot of people who just don't want this to work because of their own, interest. What is the roadmap? What is the reaction? Going forward.
No, I think that, as I said, a lot of activities are going on where people who truly are genuine about trying to create a unified ticket are talking and thrashing out all the various possibilities. So we know that our colleagues want to do everything possible to try and exclude the most competitive people there. And I think that there has been an enormous amount of time devoted to looking at various scenarios of how we move. It would be imprudent of me to just divulge them on a show like this, because I'm sure our colleagues are listening. They do listen to us, and sometimes they then counter us by the things that we are saying ourselves. Suffice to say, I think that we are trying to be as thorough as possible to ensure that they do not exclude us and we don't have a situation where we have a de facto boycott. I mean, some of us have gone through these boycotts, and I would never suggest to anyone that we should consider any form of boycott or whatever. We have to participate under whatever methodology so that we hold them accountable.
Excellent. Before we move to the environment, I think the key, question, are you the ones who can change the fortunes, of this country? Why do I say this? But the UPND is saying they've done enough, to lay the foundation for a better, tomorrow. They're talking about some of the people who want to come back, who failed, lamentably. Okay. What are you offering? Why do you want to remove, this government and take over? I've heard 101, things. We want to reclaim, our country. We still have the same Zambia. Which country do you want to reclaim? So just paint a picture of why you to changes. Okay, let me segment it before we talk about the environment.
Let me segment it into three ways in which I can answer this. The first one is really the claim that they have done wonderful things. I want to just briefly be on that one. The second one is really about what it is we want to achieve from an economic point of view. And the third one, what we want to reclaim from, I think, a political social point of view, because all of those are very important, and I won't be long. So from the perspective of them having achieved a lot of things, I would like to put it to the public that, in fact, what the UPND have achieved has been very little. Clearly, they have achieved some things, okay? But on the balance of probability in terms of what they undertook to do, they have achieved very little. And there are indicators to this that we can all look at. So one of the indicators, Ambassador Mutubila, is, so many of the members of parliament who have been members of parliament have subjected themselves to UPND structures. And the UPND structures have rejected so many of them. Okay? I think we are all aware of that. Now, if your MPs are being rejected in mass by your own supporters, surely that has got to be an indication of the overall picture of how the people in the communities feel about the UPND government in totality. I'm sure you have heard the saying, I've heard this. Bakaunda, he wasn't really a bad man, but it was those people around him. People say that. Chilua, he was really, if you got to know him, but same thing with Arabi. What voters tend to do is sometimes they may not have the guts to show you in your face that you are the problem, but they will go for all those people around you because they want to give you the message. And I think that is what the UPND are doing. In the constituency where I'm interested in, I've applied to stand in Lusaka Central on a Tonse ticket. And I do know that when I go around the community, what you hear about the incumbent is frightening about his failures. You have a situation where they've had no water in Bauleni, for example, for the last 2 years. And they're doing everything possible now. They're digging up roads in Bauleni, even Lepaji Hill from Nyumbayanga, whatever, just to prove that they want to connect some form of water.
Yeah.
And the people are not that fooled. So that is one. Now, the second part was, what are we going to promise? When we were in negotiations with Tonse as Waza and the Zambia we want in particular, we made it a point that in our discussion we exchanged documents. So we exchanged our manifestos, we gave them ours, and they gave us theirs. We were invited at the launch, and there was also exchange of documents, which was held as very important. That is the minimum program, which we think needs to be done within the first 1 to 3 years, which includes something like the constitution. There was the issue of a social contract with the people, and real issues which we thought were very important. And so, from the governance point of view, both Waza, Tonse, had agreed that you needed a minimum program in order to execute, to do with the constitution. So, and then you saw that President Mutubila just a few days ago, yesterday, in fact, he said that he said it yesterday, but it's in today's paper, that there will be a reappeal of some of the bills that have been passed at lightning speed, which nobody has really even looked at.
It's crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy. And we said we'll go into that. But all of those are issues to do with rules and regulations by which you govern a country. So we are on agreement as the Tonse Alliance in terms of what we need to do from a governance point of view. We have undertaken that we must have a fourth republic constitution within the first 3 years. And that is very fundamental and very important. So there is something that very congent. Thirdly and lastly, there is something to do with the economy. Okay, look, no matter how good we discuss about issues of governance, the majority of people may not be so keyed in on the process itself. What they want is the outcome. And usually the outcome is economic matters. And one of the greatest complaints from the majority of citizens in this country is that we have become spectators in our own economy. So we see foreign multinationals, we see big business from outside being extremely dominant. And we, the owners, have become, as I said, spectators, or we have just become hewers of wood, basically. And the PF, the Tonse Alliance has always said that we will get back to the policies of pro-poor.
Right.
We in the Zambia, when we were sharing our manifestos, we wanted them to acknowledge that we believe strongly that the means of production must begin to gravitate back to those of us who were born here, have raised our children here, have grown up here, so that we can control the means of production. So that's
I'm going to ask you, one question, which is a cocktail.
Yeah. Okay, please.
Okay. And then towards the end, when we open the lines towards the end, now we'll talk about post elections.
Yeah.
Okay. This question relates to the environment. Okay. Now you've got this big team. The environment is very, very critical.
Yes.
Okay. What am I including in that? Okay. The qualifications, the nominations, the acceptance, the campaigns, okay, in view, of the latest law, the public, gathering, okay, the whole works, but before you get, to that, a critical question: how come this government has gotten away with almost anything they've introduced, in terms of governance, the Constitution amendment, almost everything, okay, without any, opposition, okay, and when I talk about non-opposition, that includes the judiciary, that includes the, Parliament. So bring in all those, governance institutions, how we arrived at this stage and how this relates to the environment leading to the elections. Spend about 5 minutes, and then after that, I would like to open the phones.
Okay, all right. Okay, the first reason why I think that the UPND have been able to get away with this is simply the character of the UPND itself. The first thing, okay? There's a second reason, but the first one is basically the UPND character. In a multi-party system, whether voices of dissent are coming from political parties or from church organizations or from foreign bodies like ambassadors, like the Law Association of Zambia, at minimum, it is expected that those in government will heed to the warnings that are being made by others, and that even if the other groupings that are saying the things that they are saying do not have enforceability, that the government will at least be able to say, okay, these are alternative voices. Can we be able to adjust what we are doing on the basis of these concerns that have been put forward? What this government has been able to do is what no other government has been done. Again, young people may not know this, but you and I would know. Kaunda, even in the one-party state, if the church stated certain things, he would back off.
The church broke out, the talks between, Chiluba and Keke.
Yes, that's right.
At the cathedral.
That's right.
At a time when Kaunda had so much power, he could have said no.
No, he could have said, go stick it, But here was Kaunda who had he had real power because it was one-party state and used to listen to the trade unions. If the trade unions put up their, he would listen to them. I remember once, I'm sure you will remember this incident, you were probably even there, that there was a press conference which Kaunda was holding once, and he said something about the British, and the British ambassador actually stood up at a press conference in State House and countered Kaunda, and we were all stunned. And
I remember that.
You remember? Yes.
And the BBC reporters were there, and Keke asked them, to ask if they had anything in the country.
That is right. Yeah. So he listened. I know that Chilua, as we said, when he was fighting for the third term, when there was this kind of pushback, he withdrew. And that is the same for President Lungu and for even RB Mwanawasa. All of them went through a situation where if alternative voices said something on GMO with Mwanawasa and so on, there was a retraction. This government and the character of our current president and the character of the UPND is to dismiss everybody who expresses an opinion as either being ignorant, sinister, or just downright up to no good. So he listens to nobody. None of us can advise the president, and that's not the way the system is built. You are supposed to be able to say, but Vanzanga wakambako ich. How can I? Nothing. If Laz says something, Laz is slapped with a coloration. If we, the opposition, say something, we just are haters. We are tribal haters. If we say something on the Constitution, we are seditious people. If the American ambassador issues a statement, he's undiplomatic, And yet they were relying on these groups themselves in order to get previous government to be able to take a turn. So I was saying the character of our current president, unfortunately, and the character of the UPND as a party is to be one of absolute, I know it all. The rest of you know Jack. And that is a characterization which you can't change, So that is one of the reasons what this has happened. And I think it's unfortunate because I should be able to say, even if there's a boy who is 15 years or 20 years old, if they say something strongly about my position, I should be able to say, okay, let me just assess this. Okay? That is not done. The second reason why they've been able to get away from this is the issue we have been addressing. And that in the opposition for the last 4 years, at least prior to all of us trying to get together, that we have not been able to create the gravitas, of rallying the population and with a unified message which could inspire everyone that we meant well. And I think that what the general public have seen in the past is that a group of political players who seems to be more concerned about their own well-being rather than the well-being of the country. Certainly, there are a lot of people who are interested in the opposition, who are interested in the well-being of the country. But I think that there are just too many jokers that have infiltrated the opposition, and too many people who are delusional and those who don't mean well, so that almost all of us have been painted with a single brush. That is why it is so important at this stage we are, that many of us take the position that we are prepared to be number 2 or number 3, or even not even have a position, in order for all of us to rally behind one candidate and say, this is the one that we should be able to do it. Now, obviously, in making this understanding from the perspective of the opposition, we also cannot forget the fact that this environment has also been instigated by the current government. So it isn't an act of nature that my name and Honorable Simbao's name is not at the Registrar of Society. It is because it has been instigated in such a way that we don't have. It is not by accident that almost all of the political parties which are of threat from an electoral point of view are all in court. This is not accidental, and it's not only as a result of our own incompetencies as the opposition. It is clearly because there is an instigator who is creating and finding an environment in which you disable the opposition. Now, even if that is the case, one of the reasons I'm harder myself on we as the opposition is that if your opponent is playing by this set of rules, you have to come to your opposition to say, okay, I understand this set of rules. I can bypass him by doing this. Within the law, not outside the ambit of the law.
Are you going to achieve this when the referee, in this case, ECZ, also seems to be perceived as a player playing with the government?
Yeah, well, the alternative is too ghastly to contemplate. Meaning that we sit down and become defeated and say, oh, okay, this thing has already been won. I mean, that is too ghastly to contemplate. As a leader, you must find a way around the obstacles that have been put. Clearly, there are obstacles. There are impediments. There are roadblocks that have been put. A big chimtengo of a tree, a ginormous tree, has been put right in front of you.
You have to depend on the fans, who are the people.
Who are the people to be able to cut that tree and create a pathway. You have to be able to also, we started with the Bible verse here, and you, as you say, you are son of a reverend. I like to believe that I'm a strong believer. Sinner though I am, but I like to believe that I'm a strong believer, and I think that there is a point in some case where we ask God to intervene, but you don't ask God to intervene and you just chinkezi, I don't know, Mulungu as a solver. No, you ask God to intervene, you pray, you kneel and ask, but then you also exercise and you are ready to be able to be part of the process of cutting the tree that is in your way so that you can pass through. So, irregardless of the fact that we think that the playing field is not fair, we have an obligation to ourselves to be able to ensure that we find a way. And I think we will find that
Excellent. way. One quick question before I open the lines. The performance of Parliament. The performance of Parliament. What is your analysis?
I think that it is probably the worst Parliament in my adult life when I've been observing Parliament. Certainly the manner in which things have been done are just atrocious, Ambassador Mutubila. I mean, look, how possible could it be that you can pass 77 bills
in 10 days?
How possible? I cannot recall in the history of Zambia where this has been done. And the whole essence of members of parliament being representatives of the people is that you bring a bill is tabled to you, and during the time that parliament is not in session, you do what? You go to the people who you are representing. You are not in there in your own cognizance. You go to the people and say, oh, if I'm representing you people of Lusaka Central, look, this is the bill the government wants to hold. And I hold community hall meetings to discuss whether it is at the Woodlands, there in Woodlands, or I go to Kablonga and I ask people, this is what the government is saying on just a single bill, so that we discuss the bill, and the constituents themselves are able to provide feedback to me, which I can then go into the house to say, this is what my constituency wants. Now, if you bring a bill, in 10 days you have it, what have you not done? You have not gone to your constituencies.
Absolutely.
So that's incredible. It's just, I've never heard of it.
Yeah. For us Christians, we say nothing lasts forever except the word of God. Why do you politicians think you are mortal?
I think that because most of us are, rather we think we are immortal. We think that think that we are immortal.
Yeah.
And we forget that we are in fact mortal.
Yeah.
We sometimes think that we are indestructible.
Yeah.
When we are very destructible.
Yeah.
We think that that we cannot do any wrong. When the public is able to discern that you are doing wrong.
Yeah.
And I think that there is a saying, which I'm sure you know, I've heard you say it before.
Yeah.
Power corrupts,
Yeah.
and absolute power corrupts absolutely.
Absolutely.
So, especially if your character is not very mature and developed, it's very easy for power to corrupt you, and for you to begin to think that you're so powerful and that you frighten everybody, and that the whole royal court is surrounded by people who, if you are naked, they say, oh, you have got beautiful clothes on.
The story of the king.
Of the king, yeah. So
Right.
that is the...
Excellent.
Yes.
I keep on saying, the first thing political leaders lose is the ability to hear and the ability to see. You can see us on BMTV and hear us on 5FM and other radio stations across the country. If you have got anything to say to the politicians, to the country, and to my guest there, Muhabi Lungu, the number to call us is 0761 912493. 0761 912493. This is the Thursday edition of the banning issue, and we're banning. Do we have somebody on the line? Good morning. Yeah, your name, please.
General Chongo calling from Kabwe.
Mr. Chongo.
General Chongo calling from Kabwe.
General Chongo, please quickly go ahead so that we can give an opportunity to many others.
Muhabi Lungu, good morning.
Good morning, General.
Wakalamba, you are speculating very well, Allah. We Zambians, we are behind you because we are tired of this UPND, because they formed the government using propaganda and lies. That's why they are panicking, using bills, 77 bills in a week. What a bad moment in a history of Zambia. And what a waste parliament to the madam. Tulelando kutira tulefu abanamayo mu parliament. Abale amko naula amafunde. Elio Muhabi Lungu, icho nde mikoseresha. Minto terasana wa mundulile na wa makebi, they have reconciled. That is the way to go. Because if we are PF, which are to finish Nikadalism, and we have repented. What more are our firwa ukuchitatago, high cost of living, 3 meals a day, even a firwa president wa lokoloweka mumuko. She has not ever tackled free education na meal allowance.
Thank you.
40 million. Na 1.6 yali bombeleko.
Thank you, General.
Elio chimbiwa Muhabi. Ile ni Kabwe. Ba president ukwisa mkuru epawe na kabwati na tuichula mulungushi kanshi. Liashiri ya bula ndaba isura feka printer. Ele wa shape na makoni. There are no people at mulungushi wa Muhabi. As I conclude, ba Muhabi tremi lombera ichisu makurilesa, because you are speaking for the poor Zambian people. But the president Chakainde Ichirema, he needed to go past 18 August 2026 because of lies and propaganda. Thank you very much, General Chongo from Kawe.
Thank you, General. I'd like to advise the listeners, to be brief, so that we can put in as many callers as possible. 0761912493. That is the number to call us. 0761912493. Good morning.
Good morning.
Your name, please.
Thank you very much. Lukul voice on the line here.
Yes, Lukul, please be quick so that we can give an opportunity to others too.
Thank you very much. First of all, Muhabi Lungu, how are you?
I'm fine, Lukul voice.
Thank you very much. First and foremost, you are surprised that within shortest period of time, 74 bills have been approved in Parliament. You are surprised because it's the first time according to your history, parliamentary history. But you are not surprised why Hakainde managed to recruit teachers 30,000 at a go. You are not surprised. You see, we are growing as a country. We've got leadership which is looking ahead. We cannot be doing the traditional kind of things. You employ like the way you used to do, the PF used to do. They employ people, teachers, 1.5. In the population of 20 million people, you employ 1.5. What are you doing? So now, things are changing the way things are. That's why you can see investment is flourishing. The environment is conducive. When the environment is conducive, status of Hakainde Chilema, there is a lot of investment coming into this country. Are you not applauding that? You can gather yourselves as the opposition. You are free to gather. It's democracy that's making you to gather so that you want to challenge Hakainde. How do you challenge a working government for that matter? Free education is a law now. Who can do that? You failed yourself. The opposition, I'm saying you being the opposition because you are ruling at that time. You failed. You said there's no money. Where has Hakainde found the money? It's leadership. You understand? We have been commissioning a lot of projects within shortest period of time. But you were failing to do that. Even the debts, the money, this country owed a lot of money outside. You failed to pay and we defaulted. Without a shame, we defaulted. Him, Hakainde comes and restructures the debt that did not get. You still blame him that he has done nothing. What else do you want? We are not going to change government like changing shades. No. We will maintain Hakainde for a reason because we see there's a lot of leadership. The things have changed now. Better than the way we are coming from. We have a lot of things to do. We cannot do everything in 5 years. No, that's why there are years, one term, second term, so that you can finish.
Thank you, sir.
You PF was there for 10 years. What have you done?
Thank you, sir. 0761 912493. This is the Thursday edition of the burning issue, and we're banning 0761 912493. Good morning.
Morning, Mlishani Mkwai.
Tulibwino Mkwai ni bungwani.
Ninena kaonga kukabwe.
Aleni kukabwe okulandeni bana kaonga wangu.
Mkwai, balishani Mkwai ba guest beso.
Ndife wino Mlishani mai.
Awe ine ndife bwino ifi mule mona nde upwa bwino fo mule londolola. Bantu ilyo bali ba mu opposition ba Hakainde Ichilema. Bali tulaire fintu ifingi tata. Ifyoto bale polo kana mumukoshi. Tu sugar, tu salt, tu saladi. Lelo silikwisa. Bali sangire fintu filikachi pa nankane. Ubunga bwali pali wamishani. Lelo fyonza ba speta imuzisiri. Ifo fwewe na Zambia fo bala ilobufi. Tuwa imini na pasweka. Ni Brian mundu birotu linankwe tata pano. Tulepo ya lumule. Na fyonza mabiu baletere. Mu last minute. Ati nga mwaimini na babiri nangu batatu. Nishimwai katua. Butungulu shubwa musango shani. Hakainde Ichilema takontololwa. Tulanga trukala yakwe. Ifi tulefuwa kwa tibwebe na Zambia. Tuma kapi. Ifi fine brand na makebi waisa pamu. Na ifo bebe na Zambia tientuikatane. Ububu teko buleya. Patunga tuwa upana himi 5 years. Ala mwewe na Zambia tutendera kuma kufi. Tuachula kuri ubutaka kunsala bwaleta. Tuakana mwishina na ba Yesu balea. Fire in Jesus' name.
Thank you. We're taking another call, then my guest will be able to answer that. 0761 912493. 0761 912493. This is 5FM. Good morning.
How are you, sir?
I'm good, thank you.
Veteran journalist and broadcaster, Frank Mutubila. We appreciate you, sir.
Nilesa Mkwaina Totela.
Please
go ahead.
Mr. Muhabi Lungu, how are you?
I'm fine, and how are you?
Elvis on the line.
Okay.
Yeah. Mr. Muhabi, yes, we know the economy was down, and this government has tried to resuscitate the economy. Secondly, you cannot tell me that the promises the UPND made to the Zambian people have not been fulfilled. What I can say, 90% of the promises, let me start by free education, when they have done that. Recruitment of teachers, when they have done that. Payment of retirees, when they have done that. Students' loans, when they have done that. Increment of CDF, when they have done that. They have also allowed the workers to take a partial withdrawal, when they have done that. Those are the promises they were making. The only promise which has gone down without being fulfilled as at now is the issue of reducing the cost of commodity. That one I accept. Myself, I accept that one because there were challenges. We had the drought, we had the load shedding. So most of the businesses went down due to load shedding and the drought itself. So for me, anyone who will tell me that the UPMD has failed, I would not agree. My child was going to school free of charge. He completed last year. And when I go to my village, Mwanachapa, I see the children going back to school. Schools are full. Desks have been provided for the school. We have also the school feeding program. Although this is a start, it has got challenges, yes, but I know they will be polishing up. Most of the schools have been classes have been built in most of these schools. They have increased the number of classroom blocks in these schools. So for me, Mr. Muhabi Lungu, let's be realistic. As at now, I can see no challenger to President Hakainde Hichilema.
Thank you, Elvis.
Because one, I'm finishing my veteran broadcaster. One, the opposition right now are fragmented. How many PFs do we have, Frank? How many presidents do we have in the PF? If you look at these other opposition political parties, it's just a name on paper. So for me, whether you regroup, you do what? I'm telling you, Hakainde Hichilema is unbeatable. He is very unbeatable because you, the opposition, cannot match his prowess.
Thank you
very much, Frank.
Thank you, Elvis. Let's delve within 2 or 3 minutes, and then we can see if we can put another in a caller.
I think that we've had 4 callers.
Yeah.
I will not deal with the first call from Machongo and Nakalonga number 3 because I think that we are on the same side. Let me deal with the 2 from Lukulu Voice and also from Elvis. And I'll start with Lukulu Voice. Or maybe let me start with Elvis. You see, when both of the callers who are clearly supporting the UPND, and it's their right to support UPND, begin to look at things that have been achieved, all of them talk about the first thing that comes to mind is free education, you know? And I would like to say to them that free education was not introduced by the UPND. Okay, there wasn't. UNIP had free education. The MMD, even the MMD had elements of free education where certain levies and so on were taken out. The issue of free education becomes such a big issue now because there was a policy frame of the PF at the time because of certain contingent issues. So when they say we introduce free education, they should not make it appear that it's is a novel idea which only the UPND have brought forward. I went to school because of the free education. So did you, and many others. So that is one, I think, that has to be understood. It has to be put in that context. Then there is always this issue of saying, 30,000 more teachers than ever before. I have created a mine which was not operating for 40 years. Me, the great HH, have done a mine now which is operating. Then they say, we had a harvest, bumper harvest, whether was it 4 million or whatever. It's never been done before. Now, that sort of comparison are actually for very what do I say, for fear of not insulting anyone. They are actually very lame brain comparisons. Let me just say they are not accurate comparison, because every government has been able to recruit teachers. There is no, even the PF were able to recruit teachers. The differences were two. They didn't make it an issue every time to broadcast it that they've recruited teachers. That is one. Secondly, the economic parameters were different, and some of those economic parameters had nothing to do with the capacity of the PF to generate incomes at that particular time. They may have been as a result of external factors, and etc., etc. So to say that, they've recruited 30,000, they are more than ever, it's a milestone, is a wrong comparison. Yes, we give them kudos, okay? But also, there is an issue to do with the population. If you say that you've produced 6 million tons of maize, it's the greatest ever. Why should have a government 20 years ago produced 6 million? Because the consumption rate of what was needed at that time was far lower, and they were able to export given the parameters that were there. You can't say, no, forever, this is there for the greatest. I mean, at independence, we were 3 million people. We are now 20 million people. Okay? So, those comparisons are not accurate comparison. The one to do with mines, and I'm addressing this gentleman. You know what the price of copper is currently? The price of copper right now is $12,000 per metric ton, $20,000. You know, at the time that the mine which HH boasts of having opened was closed, the price of copper had plummeted below $3,000. So it could be that one of the reasons that mine has now found investors is because the price of copper is now 12,000. And so you can't say, therefore, I am the greatest. There are sometimes external factors, and what you tell to your supporters is limited so that you exaggerate your sense of importance. So it's not the same. CDF, the same. Lukulu Voice by Elvis, CDF was started by the MMD. And each administration that has come has been able to upscale CDF. Everybody has been able to upscale CDF for a number of reasons. This particular upscaling of CDF is in fact a little bit dishonest, because what has happened is that line ministry budgets, say for the Ministry of Health to do with ambulances, have been taken away from the line ministry and given to CDF. Line ministry under the Ministry of Home Affairs, which was to buy police vehicles in Home Affairs, have been taken away and given CDF. So what you have just done is actually change the spending agencies. You have not really upscaled it. It is, the function is now just being done by another group in which is even incompetent compared to the group that was doing it. So again, even there, it is not a suggestion. Now, that is Mr. Elvis. Let me just say one thing about Balukulu Voice. Balukulu Voice. Again, I honor you for supporting your party. But when you say a statement like this, we will not change government like, Balukulu Voice, you should speak for yourself. Don't speak for Zambian people. Your vote is one. I have one vote. Frank Mutubila has got one vote. I have no business to talk about we will, whatever. No. People will make their own decisions. And you can't want it for them. If a person has been hurt by your policy of ensuring that people don't gather, like I have been hurt, I'm not going to include you in your we, you know? I'm not going to do so. So please say I.
0761 912493. 0761 912493. This is the burning issue. My guest, Muhabi Lungu. 0761 912493. Good morning.
Good morning.
Yes, sir. Very quickly, your name and submission.
Okay, my name is I'm calling you from within Lusaka.
Yep.
Yeah. Good morning, Mr. Muhabi.
Good morning, sir.
I would like to disagree with you on one aspect where you said MMD had free education. Me, I was brought up in the MMD during my school. We used to be chased by headmasters, head teachers. So that is a lie. Secondly, the gathering that is there, I'm concerned with your agreement, you gentlemen, because you don't have a tangible agreement, but you've got only a gentleman agreement just to sort out a kind. And that is your own agenda. That is worrying to me as a person. If people can group to sort out one person, interesting is just to remove one person, then do what? Because what you are going to agree in your gentleman's agreement is not proper. Because there is no time for you to agree to see things, sit down and do it. You are saying you sit down, but this is that you are already in a campaign mode. So you people, even if you came, to me, you are very dangerous. Maybe 2031, maybe you reorganize yourselves. It will be better for us. But for now, you may distort the development roadmap that the UPND Alliance has put on. For your own information, the only alliance in Zambia that is stable is the UPND Alliance so far. Thank you very much.
Thank you. 0761 912493. 0761 912493. This is the burning issue on Thursday. Good morning. Bueno mkwai ni mweba ni mwendeshe wangu ekashitaka kwa mkwai.
Na nendo mtendo katana na dabwa. Nebo donja mande ndeti na kuchingola.
Mkwai kushani kuchingoloko.
Ngora kwa mtendo katana de dabwa.
Mkwai na balande wangu mkwai.
Ngeza pota sana ntungurushi kumuraba so ko irande fintizi amano. Centro de shame. Kwanganda abantu kwatabana na family. Urefa kwa kushitobunga. Uri nitsenyi babana banja tikenti statement kwapuri. Ire panga sensitive. Eki muno fuata bakaindekire. Bakaindekire mabara ndiro ko batunga bakabusha 550 kwacha. Betraza pa 250. Petro pa 12 kwacha. Kireke free education. Free education o twakurani ya. Wow. Kwa ama issues zafa ko solve didini. Kwa ama issue tukasolve mairo. Mamfwa iriri ashiri yavungera economy. Yatava ka solve didini because ngere tuchinjo butekutike bakaindekire ma. Yashiri ansara. Kuno kuchingora kuno bayufi ngo bastonjira. Batewere ko bati pangira mo cooperative. Ifimune womba chibombe. No ande ngwa shirefutira. Sai pangira mo cooperative. Nisha sa tukabura kuchingora. Ai tuko kwa kubombera. Oro bakopa beutini baresa mukolonga ngabantu sha ufiko bato na bantu bazongenda bari time those bakaindetira. Nani lefo bakaindetira ko kuchingora na kopa beutira ngukito kuri konti. Black Mountain wanga baopera ko Black Mountain. Ine paro wangira family yani. Teti mbotira bakaindetira. Ba intagita point. Let me not go much further. Rest my case.
Thank you. We're taking 2 callers, then we can call it morning. We're already overrunning. 0761 912493. 0761 912493. Good morning, sir. Good morning.
Ambassador Mutubila, good morning.
Morning. Your name and quick submission, sir.
This is Maplanga Simon, senior citizen, calling you from Lusaka, Matero.
Go ahead, Demkwai.
Comrade Lungu, good morning.
Good morning, Mama Plank.
We appreciate what you are doing for this country. What Zambia needs is information, and that information is what will help in making a decision in the next 91 days. My appeal to the many Zambians, well-meaning Zambians, is that they have to look for their voters' card and their NRCs. To help in removing this big tree which is standing on the way in the governance of this country.
Thank you very much, Mr. Maplanga. We'll take in one final caller. 0761 912493. 0761 912493. Sorry, we are overrunning. 0761 912493. That is the number to call us, and we're taking our final caller. Good morning.
Morning. I'm ringing from Kawe, JS.
Mkwai, go ahead quickly. We have run out of time.
Yes. I just feel bad when people are misled. That is the problem I have.
Go ahead, sir.
Well, I know the person that you have there is learned, but he knows which law, for instance, in Zambia, where the MPs have gone back into their areas to consult people. He has been there in UNIP, I know. That has never been happened. Two, you can't say nothing has happened. Again, you are misleading. Look at the mines. How many mines that have come? He has given reasons because of good prices. That is not the only thing. The other policies are helped to bring up the mines. That's what happens. Now, what is he going to do on that area? That is what we want, not just change. Say, what are we going to do? We are going to do this and this. It will be better, not just removing UPND. It means we are going somewhere else. Please, Mwebantu.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Yeah, we're running quickly.
Yeah, but I think what he has raised is important, Ambassador.
Yeah.
To our JS, I think that it is not correct to suggest that I'm misleading people. You know, what I intimated before, that laws are supposed to be discussed by people. And it is a fact. Maybe he doesn't know. It is a fact that people, members of parliament, go on off sessions to go discuss with their people. It is a fact, you know. Simply because maybe he's unaware of it doesn't mean that I'm misleading people. Members of parliament are supposed to ask their constituents about the law. They are not supposed to go there. So that is a fact. Secondly, he's talking about nothing has been done. I never said. If you recall, Uncle Frank, I didn't say that the UPND have done nothing. I've said they've done little. And I've said they've done little in comparison to the promises they made.
Right.
This issue of free education is not what was a primary core promise. It was one of them. But the core promise was about fuel coming down. It was about the price of minimum coming down. It is about creating a democratic space. It was about all these other issues about how your standard of living will be drastic. Now, JS may have felt it, but I can tell you that the majority of people I know have not felt it. So to suggest that I'm misleading people is being unfair. So let us not be unfair. Mining policy. Again, I've talked about one issue to do with pricing. We have not even talking about the president being stoned in Chingola because of undertakings that were made which people felt that they were not taking. Now, I condemned that stoning. I think we discussed it before. And I can never say that it is correct. But you cannot deny that there were aggrieved people who felt that something was amiss.
Right.
You know, and so on. So that is one. Then let me just conclude by talking to the gentleman who say that the MMD didn't have free education. Now, let us distinguish between semantics and actualities, okay? And when I was discussing the issue of MMD, you do recall that I said in some respects. And the reason I raised that I used the word in some respect was not accidental, because we have to be honest with what we are discussing. If we say free education, let us define what free education is. Let us define it, because there is a parameter in which we discuss free education. Okay? Now, currently as we speak now, do the parents pay the teachers? Do the parents pay the teachers? They don't. So you can't say, and because even the callers themselves were saying government has recruited. Who pays the teachers? it is government, of course, and so on. But there are other costs within the government, even now, where the parents must bear the cost.
Right.
Okay? And it was the same thing even in the MMD. Who paid the teachers in the MMD? Was it the parents? It was not. It was the government.
Right.
Who undertook all the things to do with the school administration and so on? Was it the private? Was Kabulonga Boys a private school? It was not. It was predominantly a free education. What has happened is that there are certain costs which government sometimes say, we will take this, the parents will take this. Even now, I know many parents who are saying, because they say it is free education, in order to get a child into education, sometimes parents have to bribe people. And that is a cost. So when we are saying free, let us be aware of the definition of the terminology we are using. You can say it's freer, you can say whatever, but to suggest that free education is an overwhelming success of this government is not correct.
Right.
It is not correct. Yeah.
Okay. 3 very quick issues that I know we're overrun, but I hope the director understands, that, these are, national issues. One, aren't you surprised or sad that really we can't see women as front runners on being on the ballot as presidential candidates? Like, in a country where women have done so well in the financial world. That's number one. Number two, I'd like you to comment on geopolitics. Right? Why do I say this? Recently, there was supposed to be a human rights, international human rights, conference, unconfirmed rumors that China had a hand in this cancellation, because they didn't want Taiwan to speak at this conference. I want you to discuss the dangers of foreign dominance, and that includes in the economic sector. Okay,
yes, that's right. That's right.
So combine that, and then your participation in the elections, as a prospective candidate for Lusaka Central, and then wind it up, just a final message to the electorate, to the country, post-elections, prior elections, post-elections. Yeah,
okay, good.
You got 3-4 minutes on that.
Women. Obviously, it is disappointing that as far as we know now, that we don't have very strong contenders in order to be able to create a gender balance in terms of women who are vying for the top seat. Clearly, that is something that we need to change. And I think many of us think that we do need to drive that agenda. But I think that we have to do it honestly. So I think that's what I can say on that. I think that it's unfortunate, and we should try to promote that further into the future. Okay. The issue of the geopolitical situation. Again, if you look at the history of our country, we were very strong in self-determination as a country. We played a fundamental role in the liberation of the whole of Southern Africa because we were unequivocal in terms of self-determination and the country finding ways in which they can even assist others because they believe so strongly. We weren't like paper tigers just flying where the wind blows. And we didn't take position on the basis of who paid us or who gave us or who threatened us. We were very firm. And that is both under Kaunda as well as under Chilua and under Mwanawasa. If you recall that Mwanawasa was very strong about certain issues which he felt strongly about. The behavior of the government now clearly shows that they tend to take decision on the basis of who has demanded them to take a particular issue. So this is not only in relation to this human rights issue which you've raised, and of course those rumors are going to be there, and certainly you may want to dismiss the rumor. But of course there is a saying that there is no smoke without fire, and of course the fact that there was a cancellation is inexplicable because no proper reasons have been given to us as to why this cancellation was made. So people begin to speculate. Okay, and I think that is very sad.
Yeah.
But even if we don't discuss this issue, we can discuss our position on the war in Ukraine. I think that we took a position largely because there seems to have been some push from certain international players to influence the position we have taken.
Right.
And of course, there were correlations. As I said, it's not accidental that sometimes if A, which is related to B, happens, and then the relation of B comes to your country, you realize that there is some form of correlation. So that there has been that. There has also been clearly an invisible hand which has been responsible for giving policy towards mining policy and others, which seems to be external.
Yeah.
So none of those issues are as a result of guesswork. Clearly, it means that our government seems to have been captured by certain forces, which in the past we were very reluctant to be guided by. I mean, there are other examples. We need to get back to a policy which is clearly non-aligned, which is common sense, which is in the interest of the country and its principles and its objectives, rather than in the interest of those who are pulling the strings. And that is why even earlier on I was saying, when you have the factors of production owned by others, you are much more susceptible to blackmail. When you have owners of production being owned by you, you are much resilient the way China is. Okay. So that I think is very unfortunate, and it's a subject we can spend an enormous time to discuss. The issue of myself, as I said, I have applied to stand for Lusaka Central on the Tonse ticket. Yesterday I was interviewed by the constituency committee in Lusaka Central, and I've also been interviewed by the district of Tonse. I hope that I will be successful, and if they choose me, I will stand for Lusaka Central, and I'll be very aggressive in campaigning towards before. As you know, I've stood in Lusaka Central before, and by the fact that I lost has not deterred me. I stood 15 years ago in 2011. I will learn from my mistakes, what I did right and what I didn't do. I was number 2. I was a very, very convincing number 2. I hope that this time, if I'm given the opportunity, I'll be able to emerge victorious, and I intend to work very hard to do that. I would be a very effective NP for Lusaka Central, both as a member of Parliament, speaking for them and bringing bills to them, which I promise I would do. I will not legislate what I think or what the government wants to do. I will bring those things to them, and also at the level of developing the project. My last word, Ambassador.
Just before that, in your final submission, in your final message, please take on board what it would take, whichever government comes in, what it would take to make the public, service open, effective, to the country, and also what it would take to unite the country again. When people say we want our country back, I think basically what they're saying is that they want a united,
yes.
So those two issues in your final submission.
In my final submission. So let me talk about the issue of what it will take to ensure that government is run properly. Look, those countries that succeed in bringing about fundamental change to the standard of living for their people, operate a rules-based society. And that those rules that we agree to use as a process of governing ourselves are consistent, they are predictable, and even the reform of those rules follow a predictable line which is consultative. Okay? Now, that hasn't been done. The Constitutional Amendment Bill 13 was rushed through like no man's business. Half of us, I was depressed when it was passed. I really, really was depressed for about a week and a half. And the government was saying, okay, we use Mingalato. So clearly you can see that, and that's what they've said. They've said they use Mingalato. Others have even said they bought MPs. Again, it's not me. We have been told that money is exchanged hands. We have heard from MPs who have said, I did this particular issue because I was worried about my family. So there have been implications of bribery. Now, that is not how you legislate. And bribery is not supposed to come into this issue. So for Mr. Lukulu Voice and JC, when these issues are being stated, they are not being stated out of spite of the UPND. We are doing exactly what the UPND was doing in opposing and bringing light of issues which they were uncomfortable with when the PF was in government. So the rest of us here were doing so because we want to help you, JC. For you, you may be happy with it, but some of these atrocious things that are being done may affect your children, Mr. JC or Lukulu Voice, and so those of us who are standing in the way are thinking about your children who may not be direct beneficiary of an administration which is in power, which you may be. Okay, so I think that is very important. Let's get back to a rules base. I have said that in our negotiations, we made it very clear that we want the next government, and it is, we will work to and hope that Brian Mutubila will be able to be victorious. And I certainly will be there pushing him, if I can, to say this is what we have undertaken. Let's make sure that we reinstitutionalize the institution and not have a situation where emotions get in, ethnic issues get in, and accusations of you being a bad guy simply because I've told you that what you have done is wrong. So that is one. The last issue, we need to be able to say, okay, that we are one Zambia, one nation. And we need to be able to say this as a matter of conviction because it is true. I should be able to go to the southern province and feel very happy to be in the southern province and campaign and not feel that I would be attacked. I was invited on Mazabuka Radio, I think about 4 or 5 months ago. I was invited by the guys there. I said, why don't you come over and we invite you there? And I can tell you that several people discouraged me from going to the southern province. I'm telling you a true story. And I said to them, but why should I be afraid to go to the southern province? Okay? Now, I can never be afraid to go to the southern province. Never. Nobody can stop me there. Even if there is a possibility that I will be attacked, I can know. But I do know that a significant number of people are beginning to be afraid to go in certain regions because they feel that there is a threat there. Now, once it gets to that level, you know that there is a problem in the country. And no amount of hiding it or trying to frighten people not to discuss it can change that fact. Okay? It cannot change it. I know people who nowadays have changed their names. I know that there were some people who maybe in the past they were called Muhabi Lungu, and there was a name in the middle there which was not easily recognizable that this is from the Eastern Province, which maybe gave the impression that maybe I have some Bemba lineage. Maybe there was a warrior there. In the past, I hid it. You know, I just kept it. I hid it because I didn't want to be known. Then comes the Bemba government in power. Then now I want to put that name there and say everyone must know that I am Muhabi Lungu. Now, when things like that begin to happen, you know that there is an issue. Or conversely, you can put it the other way around. I had a name before, which now I'm hiding because I don't want to. Maybe I'm a Shamwana. And my middle name is Lungu because maybe my father was a Lungu, and so I put Lungu. But because now I realize, no, if you have the Lungu name as part of there, it might even disadvantage you from getting a job, and so you drop them. I know people who have done that, and if the government should dare to take me to court for this, I will bring chains of people who have changed their name in the last 5 years, either to make a name more prominent or to make a name less prominent. Reasons? Because people have felt the temperature that there is something wrong about ethnicity, and that we must change. We must be one Zambia, one nation. I'm working towards it. I know that we as the Tonse Alliance, WOZA, the Pamosi Alliance are going to be pushing for the agenda of making this country one Zambia, one nation again.
Muhabi Lungu, I thank you. Thank you for your frank, submissions as usual. I end where I started, from, and the word from the word from God. When Jesus was asked to name the great commandments in the scriptures, he didn't hesitate in the least. He told a young lawyer, love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and your mind. Love your neighbor as yourself. On behalf of Muhabi Lungu, my name, Frank Mutubila. My identity, one Zambia, one nation. Buntungwa. Let's go. Good afternoon, live from Lusaka town.
The views and opinions expressed on this show are those of the host and guests and do not represent those of the station, its management,